Woohoo!
You
And we're
caught me
live
dancing.
once again on another Tuesday. That's such peppy music, isn't it? I love
It
it. I
is.
love
I
it.
love it. I
So
love
I
it.
have a special guest in the house today, coming live from Brooklyn. Awesome stuff. So
Actually,
we've got the country covered from New York to Las Vegas. Like it's like a show. It's like a show today. It's awesome. It's awesome. So I have Judi Hayes in the house, and we're talking about a really interesting topic today, which is elevate, expand, and engage your LinkedIn experience. So that is our topic today. So before we get cracking though, Judi, why don't you, just in case somebody doesn't know you, why don't you just tell us quickly who you are, what you do, and then we'll just get stuck in and we'll start chatting.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you. By the way, I'm a fast talking New Yorker, and I'm based on Long Island now. I'm not in Brooklyn, but I'm from
Oh,
Brooklyn.
okay.
I have been just in love with LinkedIn ever since I started working for the Chamber of Commerce in Austin, Texas. And I worked with all the members there and taught them how to use it. And since then, I started my own company, and I work with professional service businesses that are selling high trust, high ticket services. And I help
Mhm.
them be good citizens on LinkedIn. We all know what that's
Oh,
like,
I love
right?
that. I love that. I love that. That's and it's funny. It's not funny. It's very serious. So you have your book, Elevate, Expand,
Oh,
and Engage. I have the ebook version and I love it. It's great. I finished it. Also, just rave reviews. I really loved it.
thank
Really
you.
loved it. And I love that you talk about things like good citizen, and there's just a classiness that comes to the way that you've been doing LinkedIn, that comes across in your book about we're not in it to just kind of, quick and be LinkedIn lions and have a gazillion networks, and we're throwing stuff up. And I liked that you had a very professional approach, and it's really nice. So let's talk about, some of your book. Like, first of all, let's talk about the title, because the title was very, very interesting, and it goes with what you call the triple E method. So where does all that come from? That's fascinating.
Well, I think I needed like a what was my spin on it, and I got to
Mm,
give the credit to Steve Gordon, who published the book through Unstoppable CEO Press, and he came up with the title. And it was, basically thinking about how do you approach LinkedIn, right?
mm.
So you want to elevate, and when I talk about elevate, it's elevating your visibility,
Got
starting with
it.
your profile,
Got it.
elevating your awareness, right? So people actually see who you are, and elevating your overall experience on the platform, right?
Mm.
So go from like, what's the term, lurker, to active participant, right? Then the expand part is growing your network, deepening, expanding your relationships, like you and I connected through something, and now we've expanded it to this level. Expanding your comfort level. So there's
Mm.
a lot of,
Key.
fear of missing out, fear of what people are going to think, fear of like, blah, blah, blah. And then the next part is engage. And engage is where the magic happens. That's where here we are. We're engaging, right?
Yep.
Engaging is where you put yourself out and you reach out to people and you start a conversation, you share insights on someone's post, again, active participants. So
I
that's
love it.
how we kind of, and working with Steve, the beauty of working with a publisher is, and a really good editor, is that they help you kind of organize the crazy static that's in my head,
Mm.
and put it in a way that organizes it. I also worked with Rivka Hodgkinson. She was the editor on the book, and she was the one that actually was able to take all the content and then break it into these three buckets. So
Nice.
there we are.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. So can I ask you what led to the book? Like what, how long have you actually been on LinkedIn? Sort
I
of
think
assuming you're a
2008.
veteran.
Yeah, 2008, 2009, the typical job search, throw my resume up there, that kind of thing. Yeah, and then, like I said, in 2012, when I was working with the Austin Chamber, I really got into it. I've published books before. Believe it or not, I've had a previous life, so I'm reincarnated. My previous life was in restaurant marketing, and I published a bunch
Ah,
of books in restaurant marketing on restaurant design, menu design. And the thing about the books, and anybody, I tell you, we all have a book in our head. And I
mm,
encourage you all to just get it on paper, get it out there. Because the whole thing about a book is, to me, it is metaphorically and physically a door opener. right? Because I can stick this thing and open my door with it. And it also will allow me to get in a conversation with somebody. Now I have something to give them. You
Mm,
know, it's having, like, taking it again all here and giving it to somebody in a tangible way, you know, so
right.
they can take what they will, you know. I mean, you know, everybody has an approach, and this is just, you know, another approach. But so the idea was to actually put it in paper, and that's when I contracted with Unstoppable CEO Press. And it was supposed to be a short thing, but then COVID happened, and then LinkedIn
Mm.
refreshed their entire platform. And it was like, oh my gosh, we got to do everything over. And here we are 2 years later.
That's great, that's great, and it's interesting that you say that you're from a restaurant marketing background because, like, when I think of restaurants, you think about how, the maitre d' takes care of you and your reservation, and you come in and they make you feel welcome, and then if you're at a good restaurant, it's always wonderful when the manager or the owner walks around and just kinda says, "How y'all doing today? How are you liking your meal?" Like, we all like that special attention, and I can kind of see how that kind of fits into your book because you almost that's a part of what comes across in your book, especially when you talk about engaging with people. It's kind of like you got to be a little bit of a host and get out of your comfort zone. And, you talk about in the book, the goal is to move your conversations off of LinkedIn. And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. We're just like, we're really good. We see the news feed, we do some comments, and then we don't go anywhere, or we have connections and then we don't know what to do with those connections. So I think that's kind of the part where we all get stuck is we don't really know how to move those conversations off LinkedIn, and we don't really know how to engage with people, especially when it's been a while and you're just like, I don't even know who this person is anymore.
Well, I think you hit on a couple of things that I'd like to just go in a little deeper. There's a book I read, I don't know, back in 2012. It's called Setting the Table by Danny Meyer. Danny Meyer is the founder of Union Square Restaurant Group and Shake Shack. Maybe some people are familiar with that. But what he talked about was setting the table, the art of customer service. It's
Mm,
always about serving the customer. And I think if we approach as practitioners, if we approach LinkedIn as we are serving our customer and we are consultative, we are supportive, we are resourceful, I think that everyone has a better experience. You know, because then we're thinking about how can we help? You know, I always like to help people.
mm,
You know, and if somebody asks me a question, I love questions because it's always good fertilization for content, you know. That's one thing. And then I would say that my earlier approach to LinkedIn started when I worked in advertising. I worked
mm,
for a direct response agency in New York City where I grew up. And we did direct response marketing. So those of you that are kind of my age might know the back page of Parade magazine back in the Sunday newspaper. It had all those little books, and they'd run these offers like 3 books for $1, and we test
mm.
that against 4 books for $1, 1 book free. And same thing with like LinkedIn. I do, and John does this too. We're both in John's group now, the Espresso group.
John Asperian.
Yeah,
Yep.
and he does a lot of testing, and there's a couple other folks that do testing, and I just love that because the thing about LinkedIn, and this is what I tell people is, you don't want to do the same thing all the time, right? Because it's an
Mm,
algorithm and
yep.
it's looking for that variety. So test things with a small group, test things with a different format, test things with a different way of expressing it. And when you
Love
find
it.
something that works, don't just do all that, continue the variety. You know, so I
Yes.
think, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know. I think of these metaphors of gardens. You know, LinkedIn is like a garden. You got to weed it, you got to water it, you need sun. You know, it really is. You take care of it, you know, it'll bear fruit.
I love it. I love it. And it's so true because I know as a video marketer, I don't just do video. I do video once a week because I do LinkedIn Lives, which is a video. And then I do a personal video that I do, usually tips or something like that. And then I do graphic posts, text posts, sliders, polls. I do different things because I found the algorithm doesn't want you to do video every single day. It just they're just going to bomb. So you're better off to have that variety in your garden. And I like that. Now, another thing that I read in your book, which I thought was like, it's such an aha, but I think a lot of people don't get this. When they come to LinkedIn, they're not really clear on their ideal customer.
Yeah.
And if you're not clear on your ideal customer, then you don't really, that's really going to affect how you grow your network. Because if you're not really clear, who am I trying to serve? Then you're going to connect with everybody. And we all know that you get then, like you said, based on your geographic region, they could be like, you could be a small business. Maybe you're a restaurant in, I don't know, Columbus, Ohio, and you're connecting with people in France. Well, they're not going to come to your restaurant, but so geographic could be a thing. Industry could be a thing. They could not be the right people for you. So I think that's really clear. And I loved your idea that sometimes if we can't figure out who our ideal customer is, and you said go through, do a survey of the people you've worked with, look at your own people in the past. But if you're a newbie, sometimes that's real hard. And there are a lot of new people that are like starting businesses and coming to LinkedIn. And I love the idea of look at your competitors and look at who your ideal client is on your competitors. And I thought, wow, that was brilliant. I love that. That was great.
Yeah, it's funny. That's how I've grown my Twitter audiences. I look at people that I enjoy what they post, and I look at who they follow. And then I follow, and that's easy on Twitter. On LinkedIn, there's a couple of ways, and I want to get this across because I think we are a society obsessed with vanity metrics. Okay, vanity metrics mean nothing, right? What it means is to have quality, not quantity. So I'd rather, for one of my clients, we have a mailing list of about 200 some odd people. We get averaging a 52% open rate. That's
wow.
unheard of.
Wow.
Okay? Right. And so we have a highly engaged audience there for this one particular tool. So then we think of creatively, how do we reach the other 48%? Right.
Right.
That's through LinkedIn. That's through other kinds of outreach, maybe trade shows, whatever. So think about LinkedIn more strategically, like another good way of building up an audience if you're new on LinkedIn or if you're pivoting to one area is look at trade shows, look at who the speakers are. Look at memberships of organizations. Who are the members? I have a client that's in Chamber of Commerce, and he produces publications for Chamber of Commerce. So what we do is he's right now at a trade show in Arizona. We looked at all the members and all the sponsors of that trade show. And since he's an exhibitor, we personalize the outreach to connect with each and every one of them. So again, but please, please, please personalize your message. And people are, oh, it takes too long. You know what? If you don't have time to do that, then why would someone want to connect with you? It's kind of like going to an event and just dealing out your business cards and running out of the room. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. What was that? I mean, in Vegas, you know that, right?
Right.
So, the hardest part and I didn't mean to talk loud there, but the hardest part for people to wrap their head around is a couple of things. One is LinkedIn is not about you. It's about your audience. It's about the person that's reading it. So when it's relevant to them and when it resonates with them, you got their attention. Okay. So, and when you said, tell me about yourself, my usual response when I meet someone in person is, you know what? I could talk about myself all day. Tell me about you. Tell me what.
I love that.
And then what happens is then when we finally get around to that person saying, you know what? I've been talking all the time. What do you do? Now I have some information about them. Now I understand where they're coming from, so I can respond accordingly. So that's a really good way. So on LinkedIn, like especially with your about section, your about section should really be about the ideal person that's reading it. I was working with I do work with job seekers as a more of a pay it forward, because I speak with this group called FANG, Financial Executive Network Group. And so I'll work with some of the senior executives there. And this one gentleman, he's a CFO, and he was looking to change his role. And I said, well, talk to me about that. He says, well, I'm really strategic. The way I approach it is from a strategy as opposed to a transactional accountant. So I said, okay, then who's going to hire you? He says, well, a really smart CEO is going to hire me. So we wrote his about section to that smart, savvy CEO. You're a savvy CEO who wants to know how to build shareholder equity and grow your company so you are in a position to, whatever it is they do. And what I wanted the takeaway, I always think about what's the end game that I want from somebody reading this. I want the reader, who's that savvy CEO, to say, hey, you know what? Our guy or gal down the block there, is just doing our tax returns and keeping us out of the IRS. We need a strategic CFO who's going to help us build value and, et cetera, et cetera. And so my client then would be in the position, right? Because what his about section
Yep.
is directly to his buyer. So when you think of it like that, because again, if you ask me, I'm talking all about me, you're wandering off, or oh gosh, when is she going to stop? Or oh, I got to talk to so and so over there. Just get me out of here, right? How
Yep.
many times do
Yep.
people actually read profiles?
Yep.
Not much.
Yep.
I think it's less
No.
than 20% are going to read your about section, right?
Wow.
I mean,
Right.
very little. You just stay at the top of the fold. So that's the thing, is really making it about the ideal audience. And people say, well, I work with all kinds of companies. Pick one. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to say, this month I'm going to focus on supply chain technology companies. And so my profile is going to be positioned to supply chain technology companies, or I'm going to focus on investment bankers. Whatever it is, talk to that audience. You can still, like you, Jillian, you take on other kinds of work. I don't just do LinkedIn. I do all kinds of things, but LinkedIn is the gateway drug, right?
Yeah. I love that. The gateway
The
drug.
gateway drug. Once they're in, you got them in.
That's a tweetable.
It
That's a
is. LinkedIn is the
tweetable.
gateway drug for me, at least. But it's really being very clear, because if you're clear on who you're talking to, and you understand the struggles and the problems that particular profile or prospect is having, then what you do, and I learned this from Bryn in all of her teachings about social selling, is you don't lead with what you do. You don't lead
Right.
with your solution. What you do is you empathize and understand the problem
Oh,
that
yeah.
your prospect is having, and then you lead to the end state, which is your solution. So when you do it
Priceless.
that way, you're not selling.
Right.
You're advising, and you're much more, because you have to build trust on LinkedIn. But we never met. So why are you going to trust me? Right? What is it? Oh, well, I understand that by the way, you were very helpful in giving me tips on how to do the cover story.
Ah,
Remember that?
oh, good.
Yeah, you actually took time and you gave me a tutorial, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you are fantastic." That immediately built trust, because now when I think of you, I think, yeah, Jillian really knows her stuff, and she's really good at what she does, because I remembered that. So it's because, you took the time to understand a problem I was having, and I didn't ask for a solution, but you were gracious enough to say, "Hey, if you want to know more, check this out." And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Then I tried it, and I think I shared it with you as my cover story thing.
Yep. Yep.
And you're like, oh, and then you gave me some really good feedback. And I was like, wow, and so that's the magic. What's
I
happening right
agree.
here is the magic.
I agree.
It
I
really
agree.
is. Yeah.
So I see we have a bunch of comments,
Uh-oh.
and so let's hop on over to those. So we have
Oh
that's
my.
strange. It's start. Okay, so we have Tristan Griffiths. He's talking about, and it's interesting. The first comment is about Nigel Cliff, and it's like it always cuts in the middle of the comments since when we went live. And I love that you don't see your competitors as competitors. You see
Yeah.
them as, I don't know if I can get the word, but
Co-opetition.
yes,
Co-opetition. I first heard that
yes.
from Brenda Miller. I first heard that from Brenda Miller.
It's a
And
wonderful idea. It's a
well,
wonderful
let's put
idea.
it this way, okay? If I approach life, and I approach life from a half full giving mentality, okay, my cup
Mhm.
is always half full. There's always a good side, even in the worst of situations. And if I approach it that way, and I can do something to help a colleague in whatever way possible, I don't see them as a threat. If I'm
No.
threatened by them, then they're competition. Oh my gosh, you're going to take my clients. You're going to take all my stuff. And whoa, that's from a position of fear and lacking. So if you
Yeah.
approach things from a giving, positive openness, I mean, not, I'm from New York, so I'm obviously cautious about things, but, you know, in common sense, then, and I have to tell you, this community has been so supportive that I'm just in awe that I'm part of this community. So thank you all.
And it's wonderful because you're right. There's so many people on LinkedIn. Our services are valuable. I don't think any market is saturated, and you just think there's enough work to go around. And for some people, we could do exactly the right thing, the same thing, but maybe this person's a better fit based on time zone or gender, or who knows, there
Yeah.
could be a million reasons. So I just think it's all good. It's all good. So I love that. I love that. Okay. Woohoo. So speaking, another one you mentioned in your book, our lovely friend, Jeff Young.
Oh my
Woohoo.
gosh,
So
Jeff.
many
Jeff,
E's.
okay.
We love Jeff. We love Jeff.
Embrace, embrace.
Oh, he's amazing. Excellent experts to help elevate, expand, and engage our experience. Namaste. Just love Jeff. He's
Thank
just,
you, Jeff.
he cheers everyone on. He is just our, I think of LinkedIn, I think of Jeff. Okay, Debbie Weemis, looking forward to more gems from these ladies. That's awesome. That's awesome.
We're
I don't know
always
if you know
acknowledging.
Debbie. Debbie's down in Florida. Do you know Debbie?
I don't. Debbie, hey,
Okay.
Debbie, how you doing?
Yeah,
Hi, Debbie.
you guys are gonna have to, well, I'll introduce you to each other. I think
Same
you'd
time
get
zone.
along just great. Looking forward to this. Yay! Denise here from Houston. So we've got some Texans in the house. That's always awesome. And we have, so good to be here live with you. Ye old man is back.
Way to go,
Morning,
Ken.
ladies. Wow, they're waking
New
up in New
Zealand.
Zealand and hopping in. So that's what's all so wonderful about this LinkedIn Live, is that we get people from all over the world,
Yeah.
and probably because we get guests from all over the world. So it's just awesome. New Zealand, that's very impressive because I know how early it is. Judi loves the water and Mini Coopers. It doesn't get better than that. That
Well,
sounds like a whole.
you know what's interesting is if people take the time to pay attention to the details, it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference in the world. If there's something that, that is special about you in one way or another, or you take the time to acknowledge that, and not in a patronizing way, in a genuine way. I think
Right.
that it just shows that, we're all here to build a community, to build rapport, and we see enough bad actors on LinkedIn. There's
True.
no lack of bad actors. We all look at our inboxes and we can see it. And I think, we have a couple of chat groups that we talk in about some of the behaviors, and it's like, oh my gosh, whoever is teaching people to do this stuff has got to stop it. I first heard this from Isaac Anderson, pitch slap. It's like they're pitch
Such
slapping
a
right in the
phrase.
invites. Yeah, in the invites, they're pitch slapping. It's like pitch slapping is, hey, I'm here to sell. I'm here to sell, and that's all I'm here to do. It's like, then get off LinkedIn. Okay.
So
Go.
how do you like, so you're a LinkedIn trainer.
Yeah.
What when you get that, how do you respond? Do you use it as a teachable moment? Do you just, what do you do?
Oh gosh. Well, you know what I do? The first thing I do whenever I get an invite, I have a process, and I process them like every week or so when I'm going through my feed. And what I'll do is I'll look at their profile. I'll look at my profile views to see if they even looked at my profile. I had a gentleman that
Ah,
sent me an invite a couple of days ago, and it was a really well-written invite, and it mentioned a post. Now, at first, I thought he actually looked at the post or my profile, but it turns out through further examination, it was more of a generic message. And I thought, ooh, he
oh,
almost got me. He almost got me. But when I looked at his profile, there was no engagement, and he was in a business development position, selling
mm,
something, and I was like,
mm,
oh man, so look at the profile first. My barometer is they have to be active. If they're not actively engaged on the platform, then they're only there to pitch. Okay, people don't
right.
do connections without being active.
I agree.
The second thing is there even something that you have in common? Is there a reason to connect? If this person, is in a whole different industry that I don't even work with, or a geographic area I don't work in, I may not benefit from that, because the crap that is in your newsfeed is a direct correlation to your connections, unless you are careful about who you follow and unfollow, because that's
Right.
what's coming in your newsfeed. The other thing too is I am more selective now about picking who I want to connect with. So I will invite them, but I always personalize it. But one of the things I would encourage everyone to do is, number one, this might come as a shock, but LinkedIn is a rented platform. It's rented, whether
Mm,
it's on free or what, you don't own the data. Download your connections right now. Download
I
your
love
data.
it.
And
I
what I'd
love
like
it.
to do is go through it, and I'd like you to sort it by company name. And then I'd like you to, if you use a Google Sheet or Excel filter, filter it in by some job titles that might be your ideal audience, whoever that audience is. And then you're going to get a short list, and then look at those names and say, wow, when was the last time I engaged with Jillian? Oh my gosh, it was like 3 years ago. We were talking about meetup, whatever. Let me just reach out and say, hey, how you doing, girl? It's been a while. Reach out to a couple of people. You'll be surprised what happens.
I love that.
You will reignite a relationship. And the other thing is, I think LinkedIn's latest stat was there's about a 20% job turnover every year. So that means, we got 1,000 connections, 200 of them have changed jobs in the past year.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Is that 1,000? Yeah. So wow, I didn't know so and so was at that company. Oh my gosh, I know so and so. Whatever. Look for a reason, a genuine reason to start a conversation or reignite a conversation.
I love it. I love it. That's gold. That's gold. That's great. Speaking of John, we talked about John earlier. Woohoo! 2 members of Team Espresso in action. Yes. Howdy,
Well, John,
Jillian and Judi.
John,
So,
you knew I had FOMO. I had to be like, when he sent out that email, I don't care what I was doing. I went right to that computer and I said, I'm in number 3, baby.
and that's actually, again, the whole co-opetition thing.
Yeah.
And that, we're both members of John's new group that launched yesterday or today or Sunday. I don't know what day it actually launched. Fabulous book. I had done the course, the book, everything. And now I'm in the group. And it's interesting because when I first saw everybody posting about the group, I said, look at all these LinkedIn trainers here. Like, this is not just, people that are trying to figure out, LinkedIn from the beginning. It's all levels. And I think that's a really good testament to John. When you have LinkedIn trainers that want to be a part of your membership group and are willing to pay for it, that's a really great testament to him. So you're rocking it, John.
Let me put this out for John. John showed, first of all, what it takes to build a community. If we all look back and when he started the original Espresso group, he really worked hard. I mean, it just didn't, you don't just create a group and then just hope, that it blossoms. He worked really, really hard in terms of fertilizing it and pruning it and just like getting it active. And then when he made the announcement of moving the group to the Plus edition, which is now a membership group, I think I'd say kudos, John, because guess what? It takes a lot of time and effort to do what he was doing. And by the way, I get a ton of value. I learn so much from everybody here. And so, yes, of course, I'm willing to pay for it. I will sacrifice 3 lattes a month to be gone through.
There we go.
That's, I mean, come on.
And how appropriate, lattes for espresso. It's just like
Exactly. We got our priorities.
I love it. I love it. So that's great. That's great. We have the lovely Sarah Clay. Hey, 2 awesome ladies. Again, we get people on all sides of the pond. We get Jeff again. Chuffed to see. Oh, chuffed is our joke word. Chuffed is a British phrase that for some reason LinkedIn has decided is a swear word. So every time I say the word chuffed, it appears in the auto captions as like an expletive, which cracks everybody up because it just means, very easy, very pleased, very pleased. So that's Jeff being kind of funny. So that's great.
Gotta love the bots.
We're constantly chuffed, Jeff, but don't mention it on the live. So that's the in joke about it's going to show up as expletives. I know, Sarah. I only put it in the comments.
See, we learn a workaround. Yes.
His captions aren't working. Nurture your LinkedIn garden. Love that. It's so true. That's a really nice metaphor. And you just kind of think of, I know a lot of people. Here's something that I would ask you as a tip, Judi. If somebody has come on and made a huge LinkedIn network because they were just, engaged, basically, if it had a pulse, I accepted their invite.
A lion. Yeah.
Yeah. A lion.
Yeah.
So what do you do with a client like that? And they're just like, I got crap in my newsfeed. I got a gazillion people. I don't even know who they are, where they're from. How would you clean up that? It'd be like a weedy garden. How would you clean that up?
Yeah, the first thing I would do is ask them, well, what's your purpose on LinkedIn? What do you want to do right now? They may say, well, I want to really grow my podcast and I want to have people on my podcast. They may want to, develop business, use it for business. They want to, find a job, whatever their goal is. Let's start with a strategy. Why are you on LinkedIn? And everyone should ask that question. Why am I here? Right.
Mm,
And then I would ask, well, who would be the ideal audience that you'd be talking to? Obviously, not
right.
the 500,000 people that you have connected with, or 30,000. And let's whittle that down. Now, I would not unfollow, I'm sorry, I would not disconnect with anyone unless they're douche canoes, as John would say. Um, but if somebody doesn't fit the persona that I'm looking at, I would unfollow them, because then you're still connected, but you're not. And the difference is, if I'm connected to you, Jillian, and you have a 5,000 person network, then I have second degree proximity to
Mm,
your first degree connections. Okay.
mm,
So it's all about the 6 degrees of separation with LinkedIn. And
yep.
it's much easier to engage with somebody that you have the proximity. So, that's why I say don't leave them, but unfollow them. And then thirdly, I would look at that database. Like I said, download it,
I
sort
love
it,
that.
come up with a short list. Come up with a plan. Say, okay, I'm going to engage with 3 people a day.
I
Don't
love
send them
that.
some form, cut and paste message. Don't do that. Make it personal. Look at their profile. What have they been up to? Oh, I didn't know you had a book published. Oh, I didn't know that you moved to Australia. Whatever.
I
Say
love that.
something relevant and start a conversation and grow from there. But again, start with a strategy, understand who you're talking to, and then start reaching out.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to go and download my connections today. I've done it before, but then I just kind of kept it as like, oh, in case I ever got thrown off LinkedIn, I'd have this list of people. I never really thought about looking at that list and then seeing, who's who, what, where, what's what. I don't know. I don't even think I went through it. So I'm going to go do that. I think that's a
I
great,
actually
great tip.
created a spreadsheet. I tell you the one thing: whoever can come up with a CRM that really plays nicely with LinkedIn could do really well. I work with my clients have all different everything from Salesforce to HubSpot to Pipedrive to Insightly to less annoying CRM to I don't know. No CRM that I have come across plays nicely with LinkedIn unless it's violating terms of service, which you can't do that.
Right.
So what I would say is I created a Google Sheet and I added some rows to it that I can tell, do I know this person? Have I engaged with them? What's
Mm,
important to them? Where are they located? What industry are they in? Whatever criteria I want to use for engagement. And when I download my database, which I do regularly, I upload it to that worksheet and that becomes a living document so I can process that and I can sort things and I can go through. Like if I run a poll, I'm going to track who responded to the poll, and then I can
mm.
engage with that audience. So I think, again, you have to be intentional and you have to realize that, LinkedIn it can be an amazing tool, but that's all it is a tool,
I love
and
it.
it's like, how are you going to work the tool? Right.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Well, we're past the 30-minute mark, so
Oh my.
we're going to end it here because I found LinkedIn Lives really good to keep it to 30 minutes, and I'll get to the rest of the comments. We'll get to the comments after the show, and we'll go in and address those. And I wanted to thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being on the show today, Judi.
Oh, thank
Can you tell us where to get your book? I got mine on Amazon, but maybe you can tell us all the different places everybody can check out your book.
Yeah, I wish I could say I would send you a copy. I'm still waiting for my copies to arrive. Amazon is really, for whatever reason, Amazon is the place to get it. If somebody reaches out to me directly and they can't afford the $10 to buy it on Amazon, I will send you an electronic EPUB book if you can't afford to spend
Oh,
that $10.
oh,
I want to get it in the hands of as many people as possible because I think if you leave with one good idea, then it makes LinkedIn a better platform for all of us. So
mm,
if you do reach out to connect with me, make sure you mention this live. No generic invitations.
that's a good one.
And
That's a good one.
yeah,
And
and continue. Let's continue this community. Let's keep it strong, everybody.
super, super. Well, thank you, Judi, for being here today. And we'll see everybody again next week. And we'll talk with you soon. Bye.
Thank you.